Hi guys, my name is Tom Antos, and in this video I'm going to show you a new light that I got and also a test that I'll be doing with it, so I can kind of see for myself just how well it performs before I actually use it on a upcoming film shoot. So the light that I got is called Movofilms Sunfire. It's a LED daylight light which is rated at 5600 Kelvin temperature. Now the really cool thing about this light, or at least that's what's advertised about it, is that it's the most powerful LED light out there. It's supposed to be kind of equivalent to, like, the smaller HMI powers lights. So I'm gonna actually see how well it performs, outside when it's actually competing against a really bright light source like the sun. So here I'm just basically setting up like this, sort of a typical interview shot, you could say. And again, this is just for the test. So I'm gonna first kind of try to figure out where to put the camera, get the right angle, and kind of what I would want to capture is the shot of the person I'm interviewing, but also behind him I want to show this nice sky that we have, and it's actually the sun was a little bit later in the day, maybe 7 p.m. So the sun wasn't quite setting yet, but it was kind of overhanging this tree line. And yeah, I just wanted to show that, and I'm almost shooting basically directly into the sun. So obviously, with the sun being behind my subject, that means that I have to put a lot of light from him from the other side, and that's where it might be really good to use a really powerful light like this. Now, normally, if I'm shooting outside and I want to get very kind of stylized or kind of control lighting, then that's when I would resort to using those really expensive and powerful, HMI power lights. I already did a video about one of those before. Now, those are not lights that are really affordable to most people, so that's the reason why, most likely you're not gonna own one of those. Also, they're really big, really bulky. They get really hot and use a lot of power. What's cool about this LED light that I'm going to be testing out is that it's basically the exact opposite. It uses very little power compared to HMIs. Also, it's not supposed to get hot, and it is smaller and lighter. That I can tell you right away. Anyway, so once I more or less have my camera angle, I kind of decide, kind of already more or less on my camera settings too, so I can kind of get a decent exposure so that the sky looks nice, so I don't just blow out those the clouds behind them. Then that's when I'll start, actually adjusting the lighting. So once I kind of, more or less dial in the settings for my camera, just so I can kind of see that sky behind them, the first thing I do, just to kind of try it out, is to use a reflector. Now, the reflector, even though it reflects the sun, it does not reflect enough of the sunlight, and it's just basically not bright enough. So really, the only way I can get a decent exposure on his face with the reflector is if I bring up the exposure on the camera, which then means that the sky behind him is getting slightly blown out. So since I want to also capture as much detail as I can in the sky, what I'm going to do instead now is light him with the LED light, the Sunfire LED light, and then that should allow me to bring down the exposure in camera, so I can still see the details in the clouds. So the light actually comes in this fairly nice case. It's not a hard case, but it is like a foam kind of a padded case, and it has just a kind of zipper cloth on top of it. Now, to mount these lights, like I said, they're not as big or heavy as HMI lights, but this is still a pretty heavy light. It's built very solidly, which is a good thing. All metal construction, and has this kind of a heatsink in the back there, as you can see. So it's a nice sturdy light, but because of that, you definitely don't want to use some cheap light stand. So if you have like a full size C stand, I would recommend using that. So I kind of more or less just point the light at him, turn it on, and this is without any gels or filters, because you can see that's how the light looks. Now right away you'll notice it's very directional, kind of like a spotlight almost. It's kind of fades off right away from the center. So to change that, you can use these filters that are included with the light, and they come in 3 different variations: 15 degrees, 30, and 55 degrees. And basically, the bigger the number, the more the light gets dispersed, so the light is not as centered, but also it means that it reduces more of the light, so it weakens it. And I'm going to do at the end kind of a quick measurement with my light meter to see just how much light is being reduced when you're using, for example, the strongest filter. And then I settle for the 30-degree filter, so that I don't get this kind of a spotlight effect. And also then I adjust right away the angle of the light, because it was a little bit too high for me, so I kind of tilt it, lower it a bit, and get the light a little bit more from the side on him. And just, I think it's going to create slightly nicer looking shadows. So anyways, then I go back to my camera, I kind of fine tune again the camera's position and the settings, and this is more or less what I end up with. And as you'll notice, there's still a lot of light in the scene, because, I'm shooting at ISO 200, and even though I'm at aperture f9, so I can still kind of get that background, in focus, as you'll notice, there's so much light that I have to shoot at a really high shutter speed of 1/400th of a second. Now, what this allows me to do is to actually still be able to get that, all the details in that nice sky, the tree line, even the sky itself kind of peeking over the trees. But I can also see my subject's face. And, there's really no other way of doing that other than putting a really, really bright light onto your subject. Because, like I said, even with a reflector, you're just not going to be able to reflect enough light back to get that kind of a nicely balanced exposure. And anyways, this is our final shot. So with a little bit of color correction, I think I was able to get a pretty nice looking result, and capture the dynamic range of that whole scene. Now you can see in the back of the light, there's a DMX in and out connection. Also, you can change the DMX address. Plus, you also have, the knob for adjusting the intensity of the light and the power in. Now, the power in comes in from this ballast that you can see on the bottom. And then on the top here, on the back of the light, you'll see this giant heatsink. And that's to actually, to kind of cool off the light while you're operating it, in case it gets hot. But I gotta tell you that when I was using it, as you'll notice, I've never used gloves, and I had this light on for about 15-20 minutes, and it was totally fine. It was just, if anything, I would just say it's a little warm to the touch, but it's not hot at all. Now the light itself, or the light source, is made up, as you can see, of these really big LED lights, which is kind of nice. And then on the front of the light, you have these kind of grids for putting in the filters that are supplied, as well as the barn door, which you can put in there, and then you can adjust the angle of the barn door. So, overall, like I said, this light, looks really solid, has all the really functionality that I think I would need. It's also nice that they include that case comes with it, so you can store your filters. The same thing with the barn doors and the light itself in it. And like I said, after having used it overall in this test, I used it for about half an hour. I was able to right away turn off the light and put it in its foam case and not have to worry that it's going to melt the foam, because the light seriously did not get hot. I actually thought it would get a little bit warmer, but it didn't. And also, I'm not sure if it has any fans in the back or not, because I did not hear anything. I did not hear the light itself producing any sound. But whatever the cooling system in it is, I gotta tell you, it works really well, because, like I said, the light did not heat up. Now here, I'm gonna just test out the intensity of the light with my light meter, and as you can see, it's just really difficult to stand in front of it and kind of look in it. And at first, when I was measuring it, I thought my light meter was broken, because it was basically going off the chart, so I could not even get a reading at the beginning. But eventually, once I adjusted it, I was getting settings of ISO 200, and with 180-degree shutter, or what would be 1/48th of a second at 24 frames per second. The aperture would have to be at all the way crazy 64. So I don't think there are any lenses out there that can close that far. So that should just show you just how powerful this light is. Now, when I actually stepped back a little bit, I was still getting basically too much light for my light meter. But once I went all the way to 10 feet, with no filters on the light, I was getting 1,200 foot candles. So that's a lot of light. You can kind of compare it to some of the other lights on the market, and you'll see what I mean. Now with the thickest, basically filter that they provide, which is the 55 degrees, at 10 feet I was getting drastically less. It was around 420 foot candles of light. Still a very powerful light, just obviously not as powerful as when using it without any gels or filters on it. Now, as far as the power usage of this light, it will draw about 920 watts. That's with a 110 volt power supply. And as far as the flicker, I haven't been able to test it right now in this test. So like I said, I'm going to be doing a following up test and shoot some basically high-speed slow motion, so I can actually see whether there is any flickering visible at certain frame rates. So anyways, overall, I'm pretty happy with this light. I can't wait till I actually use it on my upcoming project. So I'll definitely do a follow-up video, show you guys kind of what results I got with it. So as always, make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also click the little gear icon next to the subscription button and turn on notifications so you're notified when I have the next video coming out. And lastly, if you guys are interested in getting this light, then just follow the links in the description of this video, and I'll point you to where you can get it and find all the best deals. Anyways, that's it. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.